Any problems with those? By the way, the meeting is recorded and it's being recorded now.
I was fine with them.
Nick?
Fine.
Ed?
I wasn't present, so.
Okay.
make
I
a
was fine
motion.
with them as well.
Yeah. I move
Greg,
that we
this is
accept the
Sarah.
minutes of July 1st, 2020.
Yeah, Sarah, you were not present, so I don't think you have any say in that. You should not vote. So it's
Okay,
just
Wait a
the
minute.
three of us.
I did have
Nick?
one. Wait a minute. I did have one minor edit, and I sent it to Karen, and so as amended.
Okay. All right, you need a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes of July 1st, 2020 as amended.
That was Judy. Nick seconded. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Moving along to July 22 meeting. Any thoughts? Anybody have any issues?
No.
Not hearing any. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of July 22nd, 2020.
That was Judy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ed. All those in favor, Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well, so we move right along. We have three things to be continued because we're adding 20 Ridgeway. So we could do this with one motion. We're continuing them all to the October 21st meeting. Who wants to grab that motion, please?
Four things with Ridgeway.
Oh, okay.
Walsh,
Garfield.
Zetting, and so
Oh, that's right. Four things, including Ridgeway. Ridgeway is 1371544, whoever's making the
Yeah.
motion.
I make a motion to continue to October 21st, the following four applications. Notice of intent, Shaw for 43 Old Bedford Road, DEP file 1371504. Notice of intent for Walsh, 150 Garfield Road, DEP file 1371524. Notice of intent application for Ying Zhang at 449 Strawberry Hill Road, DEP file 1371538. And the fourth one is notice of intent application for Yokon 20 Ridgeway Road, DEP file 1371544.
And do I have thank you, Judy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. All those in favor, Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Sarah, you can vote on this one.
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. That's unanimous. Thank you all. All right, moving right along. Finally, we are at 676 Monument Street, the Fenn School. DEP file number 1371534. Who is here to discuss that? I see David, Dwight.
Yeah.
Did I see-
Hi, Greg. Greg, this is Derek Bunis, our headmaster of Fenn, and
I thought I saw you on here.
I am on here, and I've unmuted myself, but I'm having a hard time starting my video. But that may be okay as long as you can hear my voice.
Yep,
But that's
fine. We can hear your voice. We can hear you loud and clear.
so generally we don't allow participants to share, but if there's something, we have the plans you've submitted up for us to, take a look at.
Sure. What I'm reading on my screen is you cannot start your video because the host has disabled it. So I'm hitting OK, and I'm happy to speak at this point. And
Derek, is there something that you would like to share that we don't have?
yes, I was just going to offer some opening remarks, Delia, if that's
Sure,
okay.
Please, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Greg. Thank you to the commission. Again, my name is Derek Bunisar, headmaster of Fenn. I'm in my third year in that position, in my 26th overall in the Fenn community. It's nice to see some familiar faces out there. We appreciate being here tonight and deeply appreciate the commission's evaluation of our proposal. Just want to speak a little bit about the land in that proposal. We're pleased to continue stewardship of this space. I want everybody to know that we've incorporated very carefully both educational opportunities and also physical activities in the space: journaling, reading, writing, plant identification, photography, running, frisbee, canoeing, fishing, to name a few. It's used daily by our community, especially right now in the midst of COVID challenges and all the emphasis on being outside and being protective of health and safety. It's a space that we're using quite intensively at the moment. I want to be clear that we look forward to thoughtful continued use of the land. There are areas that have been mowed, as I understand it, for 15 years. We will continue to take care of it in good ways and use it for school programming. We do wish to offer our boys, as part of our programming, safe access to the river for canoeing purposes, thereby proposing the installation of a canoe dock to protect the riverbank. And we understand there's interest in our thinking and planning, and we are here tonight to listen respectfully and respond as we deem appropriate. And thank you for your time, and we appreciate being here. And I'll turn it over at this point to David Platt, who is our Associate Headmaster for Finance and Operations. Thank you.
Yeah, and Delia, I think we were just gonna introduce at that level and make sure, I think we had shared a letter with the commission, and I know that the other folks on the call with Fenn, Dwight Dunk, who's a principal at Epsilon Associates, and Jeff Adams, who's a trustee at the Fenn School. I know that you received a letter from Dwight addressing a couple more questions and issues, and I did want to, make sure to say out loud, the addition of the motorized boat that we feel like is just an essential piece of the puzzle that we were late to add to the conversation, but it has come up a few times at this commission's meetings, and that's something that's new to tonight that's on there. But everything else is really just a confirmation of where we have been, and at this point, I think we believe we submitted everything that you've asked us to submit. But hopefully tonight we'll answer any other questions and stand ready to do so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, we did receive Derek's letter. Thank you much. We all got that and were able to read it. I guess we start with the newness. It was interesting that in reviewing the minutes of July 22, one of the things was that there would be no motorboat activity. And it's come as a modest shock that there is a motorboat, and I don't really understand canoeing and motorboats is a bit of an odd thing. I don't get the connection in terms of safety. I assume you wear life vests, and if you fall in the water, you swim to shore, and if you can't swim, you shouldn't be in a canoe. But my basic question is, why is it a gas-powered motor? Why isn't it electric?
That's a great question. I think, just to go up, I think we really had not thought that we would need one. And, we've discussed this a few times as a school and as a community, and came down that we felt that it wasn't necessary. And then as it kept coming up, frankly, here and in other meetings, we just pursued it more with our insurance company, our attorneys, and everyone just said, Dave, as the school is going to put kids out in canoes, you can't just have another canoe on the shoreline to go out if there's an emergency for them. You really need to want to be.
But you had 6 canoes there for a long time, yeah? Or for a while anyway.
Well, we really only started using the canoes recently, but yes, we now have 12 canoes, but.
It would be wonderful. It just seems to me it might be proper that you consider having an electric one. Then we get by all the issues of pollution and refueling and what have you.
Yeah. It could absolutely be electric. No, there's no question about it.
Here's a question, and we've always talked about management. I think we've always, talked about management of this as we did it, and getting control of the management, understanding the management. And here's an issue that I'm still, I know you can resolve it. It's just, you're going to have about a 10-foot wide path through, and all we care about is the buffer zone. I mean, what you do in the field beyond that is your prerogative, of course. But I'm just thinking with the number of canoes, we've been talking about it, with the number of canoes that you're talking about using, 20 plus, and the 2 kids per canoe, I assume, and maybe that is a false assumption, but that could be 30 or 40 kids going back and forth, landing, launching and bringing them out. How do we stop it from splaying out much like an upside down funnel, and they just walk up the bank and go off 30 degrees that way, 30 degrees that way, et cetera, et cetera. For those of you who can't see my arms, I'm flailing them side to side. You get my point, Dave? It's like, it's just a management issue. You can solve it, but we haven't seen a resolution, because I just started thinking about those numbers, and you're running camps. And it just would be horrible to have the bank worn down by the kids, and it's not their fault. They're kids. I remember being 12 years old, and I'd be damned if I'd stay on the path unless somebody instructed me how I was supposed to do that. Or maybe that's just me. We were talking about creating a pollinator field at one point, and we just want to emphasize that we've been advised not to use rye seed with that, and we strongly would prefer you not doing that the rye tends to take over and win the battle or make it difficult. We just want to re-emphasize. I just got a list of things I'll just knock off to you. Okay. And it also seems that it's ill-advised to rototill deeply, because that activates more seeds and gives the favorable ones a more difficult time. And there's several techniques. Apparently, I'm not involved in knowing the details, but sod slicing and all kinds of things to seed it seems more effective. Just please think of that if you wouldn't mind. Mm-hmm. Let's see, where am I? Sod cutter, I said. It would be, and we got your letter, Derek, and it was heartening to hear your sincerity in it. And would the school consider, and I'm throwing this back to you to come back to us with a suggestion, to put a conservation restriction on a part of that, to make the neighbors and and I guess the commission to some extent feel comfortable that you've actually protected a piece, and the CR would be worked out, I'm sure, with Delia and what have you, that it could be for educational, and you could plant you could plant gardens in it and everything, but just have an area set aside. We've got bobolinks out there. Is to just sort of agree to work with Delia to see if we can't develop some sort of a CR on a portion of it that would set it aside and show that you are good stewards and will take care of it and pay attention and see how it goes.
Can I say something, Greg? Yeah.
Oh, please.
I think that bobolink issue, I would really like to see the school make some positive statement about attempting to preserve those nests. I've heard nothing like that from the school. I mean, it's been brought up by several people, and we get silence back as far as I'm concerned. It would be a good indication of your stewardship.
I don't know if you want us to respond in the moment or wait till you're done, Greg, but just let us know.
Well,
I just want to see it in the plan or somewhere. I want to see it in a conservation restriction. I want to see some sort of commitment to it that's manifest.
Yeah, I guess I could take a moment.
Yeah, I didn't mean to steal the floor. This is a discussion, so please, David, go.
I guess what I would say is, this is something that we've talked about as a school, and whether we could do that. And I think, as you can imagine, we've tried to be thoughtful about what we're doing now, but also be really considerate about the future. And I think it's a great question about what's going to happen there. I think there's nothing different about how we're managing the land right now than it's been managed for over a decade. So it's not like there's anything new happening since Fenn owned it in the last 2 or 3 years that's not happened in the last 10 or 15. The same timing, the same mowing, the same everything that's been going on. The only thing that's changed right now is we're actively actually using the property daily for activities. And we really do hope, I think that, Fen has been thoughtful about the stewardship. We really do hope that the commission can appreciate that as fiduciaries of the school, the school leadership isn't in a position to be constrained by placing a conservation restriction on a piece of property that we're not presently even sure how it will be used. Even frankly, this fall, we had no understanding that we'd need to use this property like we're using it right now, which has really been an essential part of our educational program. And so to put a conservation restriction on the property at this point limits us in a way that we feel like, given our unknown future circumstances and the needs of furthering the school's program and the mission of the school, we just don't feel like there's a way to do that prudently. And similar to other independent schools in Concord, we feel like we have a long history while we've been situated on this natural area in a number of places of taking care and doing right and being good neighbors, trying to be. And we believe that our plan for the UDOC offers a responsible plan to protect the riverbank. And that's what this is really about.
Let's see. I'll set aside the conservation restriction in the discussion for myself, but I think that whatever your practices have been for the past 10 years or so, through this process in this NOI, those practices have come to light, and there are some of them that the members of the commission do not agree with, like the mowing frequency, the fact that it appears through one person's observation that perhaps bobolink nests were destroyed. I think it's possible to make a statement and to change practices, and that would be a very positive thing to see without a conservation restriction.
I understand that what you're asking for, what we're trying to explain and hope you can understand is by saying that we won't mow a particular area, it limits the area that we can use. And we can't limit our area of use right now, certainly of outdoor space. It's getting used by 320 kids every day right now and through the winter and spring. And we didn't anticipate that. And it's come through that way. That's why we can't make any further commitments, because even just in the short period of time we've owned it, we've already seen how in very short period of time our needs change, and obviously through proper permitting processes, we'd always be working with the town to make sure that whatever we do there is understood and accepted. But the area of land you're talking about is well outside of the purview of the dock project. And that's, I think, what we really hope to focus on.
I'm disappointed.
So I'm just going to, if I can just, for a moment, I'm going to share my screen because this is a graphic that just shows, this is the parcel that is in question, subject to the dock proposal. The dock is proposed down here. So this red square shows about 6 acres of land that could be, if what Fen has talked about is that this land is going to be only developed up close to the road. So, presumably up in this area here, Fen owns this parcel here as well. This house has been sold. I don't know if it's being subdivided, but
No, that whole parcel is sold as is.
okay. So it's always been talked about that the development is going to be up close to the road. If Fen was, if you're willing, I mean, this is 6 acres of land that could be set aside just for grassland bird habitat. If it were my recommendation would be that, the CR would come from here down to the river and encompass this whole area just to ensure that none of that gets developed for the future. I recognize that this is, that's something that Fen is, you're maybe not interested in, it's hard to think about that in terms of what you might want to do for future development. But if you keep talking about doing development up close to the road, that gives the commission and the community who has, expressed some concerns about some of the proposals, it gives some affirmation that what you're, choosing to do is going to be bound by just allowing this land to remain in a natural condition, which would still allow all of the activities, you speak about stewardship, and that is great. We love to hear about that. But, this sort of puts some bookends around that and says, this area, trails can be put in, the boat launch will be allowed. You could have, a conservation restriction can be written in many different ways to allow lots of different things, but also to restrict development. So I think that's, just trying to visualize what that might look like. That's what's provided here.
No, Delia, thank you. This is Derek. Thank you for your thoughtful comments, and Nick as well, and the thoughtful questions tonight. We are currently using that space that was just inside that that red box for a variety of activities, including our cross-country team that uses the entire perimeter. But I think the point that David was making is something that I just want to supplement a little bit. We understand that those are the feelings. I think what's really unclear right now is we don't know how this space will be developed. There is no plan at the moment to do that. There are no serious discussions at our governance level or at our senior team leadership level towards how that space will be used. And I think what we're trying to maximize, and I think what the Board of Trustees was trying to maximize when the purchase was made, was optionality at some point down the road. Could be 10 years, could be 25, 50, who knows? But I think putting a CR on it, I think ties the hands of, future leadership and future governors of the school in ways that I don't believe would make the current governance board and leadership team as comfortable as possible with the optionality. So I think that's what David is doing his best to articulate, and I am as well. But I appreciate the questions, and I understand the perspective. But that's what we're trying to, I think, best sort of maintain, is just what our options will be in the future. There's no plan, and I can't envision, I won't be around probably this long into the future, but there aren't any plans to put buildings on that space. I think what the Board of Trustees was most considerate of when considering purchasing the land was, if Fenn at some point down the road needed to put an academic building on the main campus on a current athletic field or something like that, current green space, then the space over behind 676 would allow us to transfer some physical activity. But there's certainly a goal to keep that space undeveloped as far as buildings are concerned. And again, I know I'm literally on my first NRC call, and so just kind of learning the system here, and I'm certainly here to support David and others from Fenn. But I think what I at least as headmaster would love to sort of learn a little bit more about is if there are questions about the dock proposal and the installation of that it's my hope that at some point, respectfully stating this, we could focus on that. That would help us, I think, take our next steps and get you the information you need.
Yeah, I think that's, who was talking? I think that, oh, Dwight, you have something to say, please.
Yeah, I was just, my, the video says that my video is blocked by the host. I just wanted to comment that, the doc, oh, there we go. Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to raise my hand.
That's all right.
For the thing. The proposal submitted by FEN was to provide a seasonal dock to protect the bank from canoes being launched and landed. The purpose there is bank protection. We worked to minimize the impacts. We have the ramp elevated, the gangway elevated so that there's no contact with the ground except for the sono tube. The only direct disturbance to a resource area is the 4 posts and land underwater. And then we have mowing for the 12-foot wide path that passes through buffer zone, riverfront area, and whatnot. The local bylaw with no build zone has a 10-to-1 ratio of vegetated, either protection or additional vegetation compared to the offset. And the idea of the pollinator meadow was a way to provide increased natural vegetation to mitigate for the work within resource areas. And it's as shown on the plans, it's about 1.3 acres, and it far exceeds the 10-to-1 ratio that's in the policy. So in terms of the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw, what's before the commission, all of the standards established in the regulations for both the bylaw and the state act. Delia did present an email today with some staff comments relative to the pollinator meadow, and those can easily all be accepted and incorporated into the plan. You have one screen, so I don't have everything up at once, but just going through my memory from the email, marking the limits of the no mow so that that's identified, modifying the pollination restoration, pollinator meadow restoration, eliminating the rye, and showing the width of the path rather than just the center line. And as I look at the plan, I think it could easily, we could also easily work with Ben about, we drew the path, pretty much followed where the path has been used now, but that I think we could potentially modify to get that outside the 100-foot buffer zone when it's going to the river. So just trying to bring this back to the purpose of the dock project and the standards and regulations of the bylaw in the act.
Thanks, Roy.
Greg, can I
Thanks.
speak?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, I guess my take on the conversation and what we're talking about is that certainly we can focus on and we should. I mean, there needs to be some sort of permit issued, et cetera, and you're developing plans that meet the letter of the bylaw in the resource area, which is great. As I read the letter from you, Derek, I thought it was wonderful in terms of pulling together and developing educational opportunities and a culture amongst your student body of understanding the environment and conservation and appreciation for nature. And certainly, you have a director of sustainability that you've had for 5 years. I would hope that that as you and the Board of Trustees thinks about the future of the school, which I know is one of the things that a Board of Trustees does in such strategic direction, that takes that seriously in terms of putting that on equal footing to athletic programs and those other things, which I know are also important, and think about this wonderful space that is available to Fenn that Delia has outlined with a meadow. It's open. There's wildlife there, opportunity to maybe bring it back to a more natural state for more wildlife, to have that as part of a long-term and ingrained in the school's ethos of what you're doing for education. So that's kind of how I view it. I mean, certainly it's not within the letter of the law of the Wetlands Protection Act, but as we step back and look at natural resources within the town of Concord, it is potentially a wonderful resource area that Fenn School, we would hope, would take a look at it and set the direction for the education of young men for in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, because it is unique.
It is, and thank you for your extremely thoughtful comments and point well taken. And at some point in my next opportunity to brief the Board of Trustees on this meeting and anything subsequent to this, I will make sure that I represent that perspective, but deeply understood and appreciated. Thank you.
I mean, I think, and maybe for your edification, Derek, because this is your first time here, I do see the logjam that you'd have by, or the pinching point if you overly restricted yourself at this point. I think we've stated that it would be wonderful if you would continue to try to think of what we would like to see, and most likely most of you would like to see if you had your druthers. What sort of, I think, has caused this to be more accentuated, if I might, is to say that there's been quite a morphing of the proposal from its original proposal, which makes you sort of pay attention to, wait a minute, we have 6 canoes and that's all we have, and that goes up to 20-something canoes. And I'm not saying any of it, it's just the way it is morphed through. And suddenly I read in my preparation for this meeting, they were having a gas-powered motorboat because some Boston lawyer probably felt that we need to have that. And, you know, we probably need fewer Boston lawyers and fewer powerboats. But that's just an editorial comment. But I hope you understand that that's caused us to sort of focus on, are you guys thinking about the stuff we're even thinking about when a gas-powered motorboat comes back to me? Are you with me? Because
Yes, yeah.
I have to throw my honest hat in the ring and say, I'm not really, I've gotten over and I understand the dock and I understand the educational value of it. And I think we can, you know, live with that. It's just that there just seem to be, I mean, are you thinking about 40 kids pulling the boats out and just going willy-nilly with them, dragging the boats right through and the 10-foot wide path be damned? I mean, that kind of thinking. Do you start a little bit later so that the ground is a little drier? I don't want to resolve the issue because I don't have the resolution, Derek. But I think that's been, you know, sort of the fear we've had is, you know, there just seem to be, and I think you're honest, you don't have a plan, which is frankly being honest, sort of scares us a bit. That's the point. So we were trying to get you to put some kind of parameters. And I think it was a fair discussion to have with you folks in that regard. So that's a genesis of that, I think, of this whole issue from that standpoint. If the commissioners don't have anything else to say, I'd like to bring
I do, Greg.
I'm sorry?
This is Sarah Grimwood. May I make a comment?
Yeah, that's why you're here, kid.
And I apologize to everyone. We have a power cut on Lexington Road, so I'm in the dark by candlelight, which is why you can't see me. But I just wanted to ask a question, if I may, about the dock and the railings, because I was interested to read in the River Stewardship Council letter their questions, or rather their requests for whether it could look a bit more rustic. And I note that you've decided to just use aluminium, painted aluminium, which you say will blend in. But I just wondered, you know, did you actually look into any other alternatives? You know, were there any alternatives? I'm thinking I just wanted to understand more about how you came to that final decision, please.
This is Dwight. I can comment that the decking of the dock is wood. I think that Tabasco letter commented about aluminum decking, but the decking will be wood. The aluminum can be painted or supplied by the manufacturer, either pre-painted or painted there.
Dwight, if you could sit a little closer to your computer, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, let me change my to my headphones.
So the decking is now wood, not aluminium. So that's different to what's in the latest description we received, I think.
Correct.
Just want to see if you can hear me better.
Yes,
Yes, yes, thank
that's
you.
much
thank you,
better.
Okay.
Thank you.
The decking has always been wood. That was a misstatement by the Sawasco saying that it was aluminum dock. It does have aluminum framing. And the gangway, the railings on that, as we mentioned, provides a structural stiffness to the gangway. So we can't just eliminate that. But those can all be either pre-painted from the manufacturer or painted on site so that they will not stand out against the landscape to minimize that visual effect.
And is it going to be easily removed in the case of serious weather, for example, as recommended? I'm just interested in that point as well.
Yes, we talked about that when David and I met with the Sawasco folks, and you know, kind of depending on the storm, the predicted storm, they can either be you know, tied off to nearby trees to provide supplemental support to the rail, to the posts that are part of the design. And each section is about 200 pounds, so that there's fairly lightweight that can be, you know, removed as needed. With, you know, the idea is that they would be installed and removed annually anyways, but that if we have a predicted storm, you know, where there'd be increased flooding and, you know, that they can then be removed at that time too.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Now, the motorboat will be taken out with the canoes. When the canoes are taken out, the powerboats go out. I just want to
That's
cover,
the
make
intent,
sure.
yes. Yep.
And that'll definitely be changed to electric, Greg. I don't even know why we didn't think that, you know, that's of course a easy change.
Yeah, great, fine. It still blows my mind you got to do that, but I know you got to protect the kids, so I don't want to get between that issue. Would you do, on the plan, I think when you're placing the dock, you say approximate location. You might want to put some parameters. We usually don't sign off on plans that say approximate location, although in this particular instance, I can kind of understand it because you're on a riverbank and you may not know exactly the best spot till you actually get out there. But
well, yeah, I mean, that in saying that, you know, a lot of it comes to the positioning of those posts. And as you know, the riverbank is pretty rocky. They could hit some, you know, rocks that cause it to be shifted.
No, I get it. I get it. I just want to make, whenever we're doing something we normally don't want to do, I like to just accentuate it. So if somebody says, hey, you're making me do it, I say, well, we had a reason not to make you be spot on because you're on a riverbank, but others, we make them be spot on at 49 feet, 3 inches, if it's that. So I just want to accentuate when we're varying from our path. Anyone else have any questions? 'Cause I'd like to open it to the public, and so we can move this along. Anyone that wishes to speak, please raise your hand or dial. Well, we don't have any other calls other than Sarah, so.
So Jeff Adams has his hand raised.
I think he's trying to hold his head up.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Delia.
go ahead, Jeff, you had something to say.
Thanks, Greg. Just a quick response on, I wanted to particularly thank Judy and Delia and Greg for raising the issue of the future consideration by the school of how we might eventually use the land. And I just wanted to add to Derek's comments, because I'm actually the guy who's led the planning for the school for a number of years. And I can confirm there are absolutely no plans current plans for development of that space. But next year, we'll be entering into a new 10-year plan for the school. And while I'm aware that the next fundraising efforts will be focused on DEI and financial aid and other issues on campus, and it's unlikely that any future development of the school will happen in the near term, we will raise the issue about stewardship of the land with the Board of Trustees and engage in a thorough conversation about long-term plans. As Derek mentioned, the likely eventual use is to relocate a soccer or baseball field from campus onto this land, which would free up some building space. But I would tell you there's some energy from within the Fen community to also focus on the natural habitat and the potential of looking at longer term solutions around that. So my comment is that I can confirm we'll bring that up with the Board of Trustees as we look at the next master plan for the school. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. So where are we? There's a couple of minor things to, I guess, are we together on the pollinator? Where are we, Delia, in terms of
well, I think you should just run through these. I think I think Fen has agreed, to make the revisions. But the one thing that I think you should just note for the record is that there is a tiny amount of fill in the floodplain from the sonotubes that staff finds to be de minimis. But I think you probably want to make that statement for the record.
right?
Yeah, I mean, we calculated out, it's about a 1/4 of a cubic foot.
Yes,
Right, and I
I
don't
did as
think
well.
we
I
need
said
to-
it was probably 0.28 cubic feet.
Okay.
0.28. Okay, a quarter of a foot. All right, so we probably are not going to lose a ton of sleep nor delay the meeting over that. But you're right, Delia. We should acknowledge that there was a modest infilling of the floodplain by that amount.
May I comment, Mr. Chairman? Or
Oh, absolutely.
thank you. I did raise my hand. I don't know if it was seen.
Oh, I didn't see. Please. Oh, my goodness.
Thank
Just
you.
your name and address. I see your name, Richard. Just
Yes.
your address would be helpful.
Yes, my name is Richard Chazen. I live at 131 Carr Road with Dr. Susanna Bedell, and we are an adjoiner to 676 Monument Street as well as the Fen School on Carr Road. First of all, I'd just like to applaud your efforts to create a conservation restriction on this property and to protect the bobolink and other wildlife there. I think that is would be a great thing for everybody in this community, and I hope that that thought is not lost in the shuffle here. I sent a letter, or Dr. Bedell sent a letter dated August 10th, 2020. That was prior to the meeting that was continued and the application was not heard. And a number of the questions we raised in that letter have not been addressed by Fen. And I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I'm just going to refresh your memory on a couple of the points that we were concerned about. One was restrooms, and I know you've heard this from me before. I think the Fen response was they might put some porta potties up along Monument Street. That's somewhere between over a third of a mile from the dock area. I think probably the Fen main campus is closer than porta potties on Monument Street, and I don't feel that addresses what we feel is a very valid concern. You're going to have 40, 50 kids there, and you need restroom facilities. I really don't want to be looking at our backyard and seeing people sneaking behind trees. So I would really appreciate a response from Fen other than porta potties on Monument Street. The other question I raised was how does this facility comply with the Americans with Disability Act? And that's a question I throw out there, but I believe Fenn, even being a private school, is subject to compliance with the ADA. How do disabled people make use of this facility, and what provisions are going to be included here? It's not a paved walkway. I don't know if the ramps to the dock are meet the requirements, or what other requirements are this would be subject to, but I would like an answer to that question. In the last batch of correspondence from Fenn, and I'm just gonna quote this, it says that that this is going to be used for educational purposes, but that recreation facilities will be for Fenn students, campers, faculty, administrators, trustees, as well as certain other neighbors. And that could potentially be a very large group. And I would really like to see some definition there. What do neighbors mean? What is the, it sounds like it's a facility that the entire Fenn community would make use of, and that's certainly going to be more than 40 kids. So I would like to get some clarification on that. And yes, of course, the motorized boat comment caught me off guard, and I appreciate you asking for an electric powered boat if it's necessary, but I'd also like to see some sort of definition as to what constitutes a boat. Is this a 30-foot thing that can hold 20 kids, or is it a dinghy with an electric motor, or what exactly is being contemplated here in terms of a motorized vehicle? So thank you very much, and I will mute myself here, I think.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. There were 4 clear issues there. I don't, whether you want to answer them now or porta potties or facilities for the kids and everyone else. American with disabilities, which I don't think is something that's probably in our purview to administer, but it's a very interesting. And then the number of users, and then the size of the boat. Just do the 4th one first, if you wouldn't mind, David. What kind of boat are you a rigid hull inflatable?
This
What
is
do you
like,
think?
there's actually a good example of it. If you canoe on the river, like I have and others do, there's actually a dock with exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about. It's a small little rowboat with a very small motor, on it, a dinghy, like that, exactly what you said. I wouldn't want to say dinghy because I don't think that's the proper definition, but
I think if you put it in writing, not to exceed, and
yeah,
it would give it parameters that we can all live with.
That's absolutely the intention and the purpose. So,
Yeah.
Not to exceed 14 feet.
Yeah,
14 feet.
Yeah, you've got to be able to haul a kid in the boat, so it's got to be stable enough and large enough to do that. Number of users, it is, I assume you want to be good neighbors, so you want to be able to, on occasion, offer a neighbor the right to launch their boat down there, and I commend you for that. But I think Richard does raise a question is, could one see 150 people down there on a Saturday? Could they?
So, the purpose of the canoe program is not to have that kind of activity. I would say if you were to walk by on Monument Street, and obviously not enter the private property, but if you were to look from Monument Street on any given day right now, you can see upwards of 60, 80 boys running around that campus area. Some of them are doing frisbee, some of them are fishing, some of them are sitting on a piece of land and journaling. And so it's actively getting used all the time right now by that level of people, like the rest of our campus is. So that's true. And then I think when we say I think part of our concern, frankly, is when we start having these conversations, we get concerned about, well, if we don't mention this, will it be restricted from being able to use that? And so we try to start being all inclusive of everything. Our faculty, our staff, our trustees are, but we also have certain, neighbors that we have agreements with to allow them to cross over our property and to use our property as they like and in certain parameters. And so, yes, that's absolutely true. But not at that level. I mean, there's one or two people we've made arrangements with like that.
And the porta potties situation, I mean, I guess you've got the kids running around there now.
I just think, I think it's I think there's a misunderstanding of how we run our program. Right now and for the last year or so, we've had the property there without any bathrooms, and we've actively been using it with kids. We take kids there fishing, they go out, they spend an hour or two on the property and come back. Part of what we are teaching kids is what you need to do to prepare to go outside. And part of what you need to do to prepare to go outside is go to the bathroom first. Yeah, there's going to be times where we have an emergency and someone's got to hustle back. And as Richard rightly notes, we actually think getting back to campus is quicker. But if we didn't say to you, we may use porta potties, we were worried it would be restricted. And so we have to at least say to you, yeah, there's some chance we may want to put porta potties. None of us actually are really eager to put porta potties there. We think the boys should run back to campus. And that's our thinking about it. But the other thing is, porta potties need to be maintained and serviced. So there's a limit to how far down they can go. They need to go in a way that a truck can actually service them on a stable ground. So that limits us to as far down as they can go. And we've put thought into that with that answer and with that reason. But again, hope is they go first, go out, enjoy, come back, go if they need to.
Well, if the campus is closer anyways, you may not even need them, The American with Disabilities is an excellent point, and I think that's for you to answer yourselves. I don't think it's as much as it's a good question, I don't think it's really something that.
No, but I wouldn't mind saying something about it since it's been brought up on public.
No, I expect you would, but I'm just saying, I just want to point out that I don't really think it's our purview to be saying much about that, but please do, David.
I appreciate that, Greg. And I would just say that like everything we do, that is certainly a focus. We have a number of current faculty and students who have all sorts of disabilities that we try to cater and be accommodating to, and are quite inclusive with. So I appreciate Richard making sure we're focused on it, and we really are. And so we have lots of ways of making sure we can include all different types of peoples with disabilities on every activity we're involved with.
Yeah. Any other questions from the public, please? Where are we in terms of, it seems there's a few issues we came up with today that most of them I think were just management issues about the path and how do we keep the kids on the path. You've got, you say you've got kids running all over down there, that's great. But I wouldn't want to see them down near the river's edge in April, on April 1st. So there might be just a quick paragraph saying, how are we managing that so we're all comfortable with that? Things that I think you probably took notes from, we would expect an amendment to saying that, it's an electric boat, and as Jeff said, maybe 14-foot maximum. We know where you're storing the boat. I think just reiterate the boat. The power boat comes out with the canoes, because you probably wouldn't want to leave it in there with, I wouldn't mind having a little electric boat to go fishing myself. I go by and pick it up if you leave it in the water.
Hey.
The path is 10 feet. Protected trees, I saw the arrow on the plan. It just pointed to one tree. I assume you mean all the trees are, all the ones that are signified on the plan. Please don't use rye.
Correct.
And Doug, let me just say that, right now when we're down at the river, we have very set and specific identified areas with a small little sign that we say, this is where you can stand if you're fishing. And then, because of COVID and other things, we have sort of a number of 6-foot spaced, very well identified spots. So we think that's, it's about faculty supervision and just making sure that,
Well, I even think I even think saying that all the kids, and I'm sure this is the case, but all the kids that are using the canoes will be accompanied by at least one faculty member. At least that's in the record of management style. We haven't actually been told that. One would think that Derek would be very upset if he found he had 40 kids down on the riverbank with no faculty, but it doesn't say that.
No, our ratios are much lower than that. So we're never without 2 to 16.
But it would be in a management thing. It would be just
Okay,
get it over with and we're done. If any other commissioners, any more comments? Does anybody have any comments?
Yeah,
I
I
think,
guess you mentioned the rye on the pollinator meadow. My interpretation is that there were some other things on how that was going to be established, such as not tilling the
Yes, I
soil.
said that earlier. I think I saw David making notes on.
Oh,
We
okay.
appreciate no tilling, and we were thinking that you could slice it. I guess if you can remove the sod that's there and just maybe put a little more loam down and just seed it, you're going to get a much better deal out of it. That's up to you and your guys, but we really have been told dry is the wrong way and tilling is the wrong way. Thank you, Judy, by the way. All right, I think did I see your hand, Dwight?
Yes, I was just going to comment that those are some of the staff comments from Delia, that we certainly accept those, the no rye, the sod removal and, replacing soil and seeding, so that, I certainly understand their comments, and we can work out those details with Delia and the plan that would go to a landscaping contractor.
All right, okay. I think we should, if you can get that stuff in, if there are no other questions, then we might be able to move this along and get something resolved.
Greg,
We
can
would
those
need a
be,
continuance to what, the 21st? Jeff, please go.
can those be part of, I'm not sure, a continuance, can they be worked out as part of the comments for approval?
Well, that means, does that mean, Jeff, that we would come up with the solution and say this is what we're approving?
No,
It seems
I
you'd want to
perhaps
present that.
misunderstood that we had just agreed to those comments, but we'll put them in writing and resubmit them. That's fine.
I just think if you can get those in, Jeff, we're there, aren't we? I mean,
Yeah. I think that makes sense. That's fine. Thank you.
I'm not trying to be overly onerous, but I guess I am. Sorry. All right, so we need a motion to continue. Is the 21st all right for you folks to continue? That's 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, I assume so.
That's our next meeting, is what I'm driving at.
Yeah, I am okay.
So I need a motion. Somebody make a motion. Ed, are you making a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to continue the Fenn School application for NOI, file number 1371534 to October 21st, to allow for the site plan revisions and additional information as noted this evening to be provided.
Thank you. Do I have a second, Judy?
Second.
Second, thank you, Judy. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. That's unanimous. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your presentation, and here we go. Moving right along.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, you're welcome. Moving right along at breakneck speed. We're not doing 20 Ridgeway, so we're jumping ahead to 83 Pilgrim. Who is here to speak on behalf of that 83 Pilgrim?
There we go. William Murray from Places Associates.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Can we see you, or do you have?
Yeah, just a minute. 1 second.
Working on it.
There we go.
So this is hopefully going to be very quick because it's very, very straightforward. This is 83 Pilgrim, which we just got an order, certificate of compliance on. It was a house that was torn down and rebuilt.
Yeah.
So it's the same lot. There we go. It's the same lot. All we're proposing to do is install underground irrigation outside the 50-foot buffer zone and
Yep.
put a small play area, a play structure up, and that is the application. Along that line to the plan left of the play area, we're proposing to put a line of straw wattles, but as you know, putting in an irrigation system is essentially slicing the turf that's there and hand dug holes for the heads. The play structure will need to be anchored with 4x4s into the ground so it can't topple. And we did give you a picture of the play structure. It's just, a box with a roof and a slide for all intents and purposes.
Yep, yep,
And there you go. And it's that straightforward.
yep. I agree. A couple of things, and I agree, it's very straightforward. Bill. It says that to put in those anchors for the play set, it will be likely to be hand dug. I think the word likely is to be removed, and it will be hand dug. You're not going to use a machine to do it, so I just don't want anybody to misconstrue that. And I also just wanted to point out, because there was some thought that this didn't need to come in front of us, and the reason it did is you're in the 100-foot floodplain, and that would require this. So I have no issues with it. Did any of the other commissioners have any thoughts or issues with this?
No issues.
No.
No.
Are we ready to issue on this? Do we have it?
Do you
We
need to
need a-
ask for
we need
any,
a motion.
do you want to ask for any comment, public comment?
Any comment? Thank you, Judy. My goodness, I'm pushing myself. Any comments from the public, please? Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability, number 2 and number 3, with the following conditions. Number 1, a pre-construction site visit will be held with the Department of Natural Resources staff and the contractor to review erosion controls, soil wattles, and limits of work. And number 2, following completion of the project, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NIC confirming that all work was conducted in accordance with the approved plan. Any changes shall be described. And this is for 83 Pilgrim Road, file number RDA 20-11.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. Any chatter, any thoughts, any further thoughts? Not hearing any. How do you say, Nick?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thank you very much, William. Thanks for
Greg,
coming
I'm
in.
sorry, before you, Bill, I see that your hand is up, but is that from before?
That was from before, yeah.
Okay, very good. Sorry.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank
Carry
you.
on.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Moving right along to 77 Westford Road. Who is here to discuss that with us this evening?
That would be me.
So, hi, Danny. Before
Hi.
you get started, we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 Karens in the meeting. So any of you who has your camera listed as Karen, if you could please rename yourselves so that we know who you are, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, hi guys, this is Ed and Alicia Boyajian. We live at 77 Westford Road, so we're here too.
Greetings. All right, go ahead. Take it away, Dan.
Right, so this is also a very simple RDA project. There is an existing barn at 77 Westford Road, and the applicant is hoping to build an awning addition to that barn to cover some tractors and other equipment there. The awning is proposed in an area that is used as a gravel drive currently. So the awning addition will be practically in the same footprint as the existing gravel driveway. It's about 88 feet at its closest point to the wetland, and the gravel drive will be connected to that awning in the similar position that it is in now. And there'll be a siltation barrier just on the other side of the paved driveway to prevent any disruption to the wetland. And I spoke with the contractor, and they are using screw pile foundation, so there'll be no excavation required for this awning addition to the barn. That is all. Unless, Ed, you wanted to say anything
Just
further.
curious why'd you put the hay bales, the wattles on the other side of the drive? Just curious.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be some like a reconfiguration of the gravel drive on the other side.
Okay, so you've got work there. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. I don't have any, I mean, this seems pretty darn straightforward, 80, almost 90 feet from the wetlands, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I have nothing to say. Any of the other commissioners?
No.
No.
I would like to open it to the pub. Oh, Sarah, did you? No. I'd like to open it to the public. Anyone out there in the ethos have a thought? I see this Karen connecting to A, and I don't know what that means. Look, there's activity there right next to, on my screen, right next to Sarah. Is that someone trying to get
Connecting
on?
to audio. So somebody's coming in trying to connect to audio.
Oh, okay. So they probably didn't come in for this. All right. Well, I think we've given them a chance the public a chance. Do I have a motion? Judy's always good with these.
Okay, I'll do it again. I move that we issue a negative determination number 3 for 77 Westford Road. It's file 20-12. And this has the following conditions. A pre-construction site visit will be held with the Department of Natural Resources staff and the contractor to review erosion controls, soil wattles, and limits of work. And number 2, following completion of the project, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NIC confirming that all work was conducted in accordance with the approved plan. Any changes shall be described.
Do I have a second, Ed?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I am aye as well. Thank you very much, Ed and Alicia, and thank you, Dan.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thanks
Yep.
for your
Good night.
patience. Here we go. We're flying right along here. 1400 Lowell Road, some old friends of ours, Middlesex School. Who's here this evening? DEP file number 1371545. Who is here speaking on behalf of Middlesex?
That would be me, Ryan Chmielewski with Weston and Sampson. There are a few people that were waiting to join, and they haven't been allowed into the lobby yet.
So let's get them in. Do you have them in front of you?
Yeah, hold on one sec.
Now, it seems, Ryan, it would be good to sort of get our hands around the big scope before, as we're letting these people in, the big scope of this and focus on the areas that are directly related to our jurisdiction. If we could stay that close, that would be wonderful, because it's quite a large project and I'd like to stay in the areas that are pertinent to our jurisdiction.
Sure.
And I'm sure you're going to do that. On big projects, sometimes you start telling me about uplands, things that we don't need to hear about. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, everyone. I believe I'm the only one here from the school tonight. Matt Crozier may be logging on, but I know he was without power, so we will see.
Yeah,
Right.
so I'm not seeing anybody in the waiting room that's waiting to get in.
Okay.
Well, keep your eyeballs on it. If you do, then let's let
Yeah,
them in.
I let people in as I see them, so.
Yeah.
uh,
All right, let's start, Ryan, and we'll see how far we get.
Sure. Steve, did you want to give a little intro or anything? You want me to just?
No, I mean, of course, I mean, we'll get right to the plans, but, thanks to everybody for having us tonight. This is a part of a larger project to solve some playability issues on campus for our athletics program. For those who don't know, our athletics program is part of our overall school curriculum. We do have a 3-sport requirement for our freshmen and sophomores. And then for our junior students, they have a 2-sport requirement. And then seniors are only required to participate in 1 team sport. throughout the school year. So, we do see the athletic fields as an extension of the classroom, and that's really why we're trying to solve some of the playability issues that we are seeing as a result of climate change and just overall use. So that is what you're going to see here as far as overall scope, and then we'll definitely focus on in the areas that relate to the NRC here.
Thank you.
So to follow your recommendation of just keeping it high level, if you go back to that aerial, this is the general overall project site. Lowell Road is shown to the north of the page. North is actually pointing to the right. Looking at the big picture is kind of important for the fact that a lot of the decisions on where the fields are located were based on looking at the overall context and relationship to all the fields from the very north end of the baseball field to the very south end by the wetlands, by the lower fields. If you look at the baseball field to the north, it's not in proper orientation. So the school desires to reorient the field in a north-northeast fashion, which is the optimal orientation for player safety and for baseball in the northeast. So in doing so, the outfield, right field of the current baseball field is the football field. So essentially we'll be flip-flopping those two, one to gain the proper orientation and then shifting the football field back to the north. So as you can see here, this is a good shot of, from a black and white perspective. It shows the outer perimeter. Yeah, there we go. It shows the area of the.
So I'm sorry. So Ryan, so I'm actually just going to focus you from the commission's perspective. All that they are interested in is
sure.
It's in the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry. So I'm just going to focus you on let's see if I can get us over there.
I think that, yeah, I agree with you, Delia. I don't want to get too carried away in the uplands because, quite honestly, Stephen and Ryan, you know that we have no jurisdiction unless you feel it is explaining why you must do something down in the other part. You can orient your baseball field any way you feel like in the uplands.
No, I appreciate that. I'll just quickly say, I know we'll jump down to that lower field in a minute. I do believe the orientation of the baseball field does show that we are limited as far as shifting fields away from that wetland buffer that is currently disturbed. So we will get into that, but just understanding where we are in the uplands and the whole puzzle match we have on those front fields, while it is, an expanse and a lot, it's a beautiful open field, but as far as safety is concerned and spacing between fields, we've taken a high level approach at that. And that's where we're leading there with the baseball orientation.
Yep.
But let's get into that lower field, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So if you look at the lower field, all the way to the south, we have the wetlands limit line. We need to add the flags to the plans. The points are on there. The flags just, for some reason, didn't show up in CAD. We have the 25-foot no disturb line, and then offset from that, the 50-foot no build line, and then the 100-foot buffer. As you can see today, the existing lacrosse and soccer fields are lined right up to the southwest corner of the 25-foot no disturb line.
Mm-hmm.
To the east of that is to the eastern limits of our disturbance. There's the new residence hall that was constructed recently with a shallow depression right on the limit of the no disturb limit, which is for stormwater management. And then you can also see a bank of utilities that run through the northern part of the site that's just outside of the 100-foot upland review area. So
Would
those
you
are,
point that out, please? That's
Yeah.
important to me, for me to know that.
Yeah. So there's a whole utility corridor. Do you see it? It says electrical, there's fiber optic, there's
Gotcha.
sewer, there's water, you name it. That's
I want
one of the
everybody to
main
see that, because that's,
main utility corridors going through the campus.
Mm.
To that extent, all of the utilities were installed with the minimum allowed cover. So it kind of influences our design of grading. We can't really cut on the eastern slope without adversely impacting that main utility corridor.
eastern slope
So if you
in the
can
orientation
down,
we have now, because I don't see a rose on this, is down, yes.
right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
right now the fields are on a lower plateau and the grade rises up pretty quickly towards the east.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Yep, gotcha.
So I think that really describes the existing conditions. Right now, if you look at the that lower plateau, the way the
Yep.
contours are shown,
Yep.
everything pitches from the northeast corner all the way down to the southwest corner at probably 1.5%, 1.5% slope, which is pretty typical for grass fields with poor, these soils are almost 50% silt, not conducive for silt and clay, not conducive for athletic fields, and being vulnerable to heavy rains and things of that sort. The underlying soils as well have the same condition of around 50% silt and clay. We did a series of borings and test pits out here to try to understand the underlying soils, and that's how we know the percentage of silt and clay. Groundwater was hit on the lower corners of the field towards the 25-foot no build zone, roughly 4.5 to 10 feet below grade. And same thing, we had another one right in the middle of the field, which was around 10 feet below. If we can move on to the proposed, probably the grading plan makes most sense at this point.
Sorry, one sec.
L140?
What's there right now where the fields are proposed going in? Is that,
There's fields now.
I'm sorry, what is that?
L140. Delia, I think, yeah, there you go.
Don't think this plan, grading and drainage.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a question, what's there right now?
Yes.
There's existing athletic fields there now.
Okay, thank you.
When you say athletic fields, are we talking soccer and that sort of, but not bat and ball type stuff?
Correct, rectangular
Yeah.
fields.
Yeah, I think it would be.
So lacrosse and
important to note
soccer.
that. Yeah.
So really we're proposing to put the same program back here, soccer and lacrosse, putting an all-weather sports surface, which is a Mondo synthetic turf system, to grade that the difference between the all-weather sports system and natural grass is the grading changes a little bit. You want to make those fields as flat as possible, just for constructability, player safety, etc. And so those are graded roughly at 0.5% from the north all the way to the south by the wetlands. We have 2 small areas of disturbance, 92 square feet within the 50-foot in between the 50-foot and 25-foot, and then another 2,400 and change to construct that lower corner of the field, which is that limit of the field and retaining wall is very similar to the existing line striping out there for the athletic fields today.
So if I'm getting you correct, the dark hash for all those, that is the incursion into the 50-foot zone?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And these are soccer fields, and are these, you don't have MIAA, what do you have, private school scholastic association or something? I guess my point right off the top is, why do we need that extra? Why can't we make the field just a little bit shorter?
We've explored looking at fields that are larger. That was part of the alternatives analysis. And this is really the minimum required length because it's multi-purpose for boys and girls lacrosse. So we've reduced it down to the minimum length for boys and girls lacrosse, which is 330 feet. And the width of the fields we narrowed down as well. I believe, I'd have to check the layout plan, I believe it's 180 feet wide for soccer and lacrosse.
But let me ask you, who demands that you have to have a field that length? I mean, what if you didn't have that much space at all? Would you not have lacrosse and soccer? Would you
Correct.
just not
You wouldn't
have
have
the
a
sport?
competition field. You wouldn't have
We would not be able to host independent school league games here for.
That's what I want you to state. That's what I want you to
Correct,
say.
for sub-varsity. And we originally, and that's what Ron was getting at, we looked at 2 regulation fields, tournament fields for New England sports requirement, the NEASC program. And that really, it just wasn't going to fit however you cut it. So this is the minimum for competition fields for the independent school league.
And how wide is that grade area? Or depth, whichever way you look at it. From thinking Lowell Road is in the same direction. The width of the road is probably 20 feet. Is this about 18 or 15 feet? What is it?
That width of the gray area is
Yes.
closer to 20 feet.
And can we see the other side of the field, Delia, if you don't mind?
The eastern side?
Yeah.
Please. And we don't have 20 feet to bring it this way?
So we explored doing that, and because the grades start rising up more sharply there, and the inability to cut over that main utility corridor, we had an alternative that raised the grades, but it exacerbated the size of the wall and the amount of work on the area closest to the wetlands, and also required something around 14,000 cubic yards of extra fill, which if you don't, it would just require more truck traffic during construction for 14,000 more cubic yards.
Okay.
Did you explore just moving one of the fields, the field to the north, 20 feet to the east?
Right. Yes, we did. And we actually, that was one of the factors of deciding on the field widths and minimizing those field widths. We really want to have between the existing soccer lacrosse field on the middle fields and the proposed new fields, there's a little under, it's about 35 feet of clearance. So can we move it maybe 5 more feet to the north, potentially? However, it's really the east-west condition that causes the most disturbance within within that area.
What about just moving the south field 20 feet to the east?
Yeah, exactly.
The both south fields or the
No, just the southernmost field.
You need, so if the school has programmed concurrent games and practices for both boys or girls, you would have no space in between the fields for player safety.
No, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm clear. The field that's the most to the left,
Yeah.
just that one field.
Moving to the east.
No, just the one field, not both fields. Just the one field.
So that they're offset slightly.
So they're
is-
offset, right.
That's right.
I believe this is what we were discussing about cutting into the grades on the closer to that new faculty house that is on the lower left-hand side of the screen. It's a good point. It's something we can look at a little bit more offset. Originally, this was offset, and they were pulled closer together to try to fit the footprint. Ryan, I know you did the bulk of the work of trying to site these fields. I don't know if there's any more movement we can do to try to pull it closer to the bottom of the page. The field on the left, I believe, is what is being asked. If we can.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's go to the layout, or the grading plan, 'cause I believe.
That's the problematic field, without question. You're into the 50 feet. And I might say that, you went and put a new building in a position that jeopardized you from putting that field out of our 50-foot buffer zone. So I think all efforts should be made to address that issue.
I hear you, and I don't want to disagree. I just want to make clear that actually the stormwater management that was required for that neighborhood is what is impeding the footprint there. So just to be clear.
Footprint of what?
Of the field closer to the house. We put in open pond basins to naturally let stormwater management, and so we have no underground chambers. And so that's what's close to that corner.
I completely understand. That, and it's a nice project. Don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing that. My point is, if you didn't put the building in that position, the underground storm, you might have been able to put them elsewhere if you and not go into the 50 foot. I'm just pointing that out. I'm not saying that we aren't where we are today. I understand we're here and we are where we are and we're dealing with what you have, but to some extent, you've created your own hardship.
Again, it's not necessarily the building and the long-term planning of the school. It was the requirement of that project to have above ground stormwater management outside of the buffer in that corner. So as you know, all of campus is bordered by, but I agree with you. There is a building that was built by the school recently that is close to the
it's just pointing it out. I'm not, we are where we are. We're going to deal with it, but
sure. I just want to highlight though that
it's frustrating.
Yes.
To hear that we're going to do what we're going to do for two reasons, so that you can play tournament games. I don't know how many tournament games you play at one time, and I do understand school. I'm sure the interscholastic, secondary school rules and regs are fairly stringent on things, but those are not our problem.
No, so I think I haven't done a great job of explaining. So we're not looking to host tournament games. We're looking to host sub-varsity games on this field. So not even to the varsity level. And this is the minimum required for that. And all I'm trying to say is that and it's tough to make out on this page, the building is certainly of concern in that lower corner that you're mentioning. I'm trying to point out that really what's there is the stormwater management system that was designed in a sustainable effort, which is a drainage pond. So it's
for what purpose?
For managing stormwater above ground instead of underground chambers.
From where?
From that Oates Lane neighborhood, which was existing. Yeah.
Right.
So you're right. It just was a semantic that I wanted to make clear that the house on the screen, which is seen in the light gray footprint, I do believe we can move it closer, but there is above ground stormwater management, which is.
I get it. No, I get it.
Okay. But you're correct.
I think we're on the same page.
In the exploration of offsetting that field, are you looking to get it the full 20 20 plus feet out of the 25-foot no build zone? And what's a reasonable distance from that residence hall if we're able to accomplish
I don't
think we can address the
Yeah.
latter question. We're looking to get it out of the 50-foot no build
I
zone.
think the charge that we are under in terms of acting as commissioners for the town and stewards of the wetlands is that we are going to look at this and say, what alternatives could one have to make this a better plan than the one presented? If we end up and the answer is nothing, well, then nothing can be done. But I think if we don't poke questions and ask, then it, you know, if that's 20 feet wide and you came out 19 feet 11 7/8 inches, we'd probably say, well, 1/8 of an inch we're not going to die over. But to not ask these questions and address if this could be made better, we wouldn't be good. We wouldn't be doing our functions as commissioners, you know?
Sure.
That's what I think answers your question without telling you if you pulled it back 10 feet, yeah, that helps. But does that get it out of the 50? No. So we're going to look, how do we get it out of the 50? You've got a large campus. I'll ask you another question. Is there anywhere else on campus? I don't know how many acres you have. Is there anywhere else you can put a soccer field and a lacrosse field in your whole campus?
It's a great question, and what you're seeing tonight is what we believe to be our best solution. The other alternative site analysis that we've looked at, you know, I know you're probably still familiar with the Spencer Brook field that we put in that was well undersized as a practice facility. We do use that field. We cannot simply host games over there for a number of reasons, and that's
you're talking about across the road.
Correct, off of Spencer Brook Road, off of
Yeah, we approved that a couple of years back. Yeah,
correct. So that was a solution to try to solve some of our field sport space constraints. The other areas on
we knew
campus,
those were not going to be regulation fields as well.
and it's not. It's a small practice field that helps host practices.
Smaller, it's not small, but smaller. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, we do host practices currently on our circle, which is in the heart of campus. Again, it's not sized for games, but we do get creative as far as the athletic department and just having kids be active outside. We do have the east fields, 2 turf fields that are to the east of campus that are up adjacent to a wide range of conservation restrictions. We have no developable rights in that area. And so really what you're looking at is, as far as space for fields that are currently fields and programmed and work well for the school, except for the fact that we have to cancel 25% of our fall and spring seasons just to playability in the last couple of years. So as far as space, it works for us. The problem is the playability.
But if you addressing that issue that you just raised, if you level these fields, which is what you've done here, basically, isn't that correct? I mean, the slope was greater when they're natural fields. Why still couldn't they be natural fields?
And that's a great question. It's something we're definitely considering and discussing at our board level. To be honest with you, the reality is that we have an equity issue with 2 turf fields and a strong boys and girls program in the fall and in the spring for lacrosse and soccer. And with the way just our school schedule works, as well as with the Independent School League calendar. So that athletic window is small. You know, we aren't proposing any lights on any fields. We are looking at being able to play on, again, a reliable surface. And we do believe that we would be able to solve some of the drainage issues with the grass field. We would not be able to solve having our girls varsity and JV teams practice alongside as a full program without splitting, whether it's, you know, boys would be on grass, girls would be on turf, and they'd be together, or like we do now. The girls varsity and boys varsity practice in the East Fields while the JV programs are separate. And then in inclement weather, one of the sub-varsity programs would be canceled and are not rescheduled. So, you know, it's not only a playability issue, to your point, we do have an equity issue of providing our programs with equal playing surfaces. So that's why we are looking at a Mondo surface. I know Ryan has, and I don't want to move on quickly. I know that everybody's going over time. The Mondo surface that we're proposing is one that we believe is as close to natural that's on the market and mimics natural grass. It has a drainage property that drains through the system altogether. So it's not like it doesn't run over, it goes through like a natural grass system. We are cognizant of that. It is not a crumb rubber. It is an eco-fill, which is a plastic base. It doesn't have the same heat. It doesn't retain heat or heat up like the crumb rubber, which everybody's familiar with. So we're really trying to look at our options, and we believe what we brought to you is one that will work well for the school and will limit our impact. I think we could certainly look at an offset that pulls it a little bit out of the 50-foot buffer there. It's a great point. I think I don't want to speak that we had looked at it. I just think we could certainly revisit it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Judy, please.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to ask about another alternative, Greg, so I don't know if you had another follow-up question to the offset idea. I was going to ask about, I understand about the utilities. What would be the expense and feasibility of taking the utilities and setting them down further into the ground so that you could move the fields to the north?
The expense hasn't been quantified. From historical reports that there was blasting that was needed to be done and rock excavation that needed to be done to get a lot of those utilities in that main corridor. We were hoping when we did test pits out there that they overblasted and they were buried deeper than they were, but that wasn't the case. They're minimal depth utilities right now.
Mm-hmm.
What is the depth to the utilities?
The sanitary sewer was 5 feet.
Wait a minute, the sewer, what, you have sewer?
Sorry, let me see here.
We do, but it's our own private wastewater treatment plant.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
The
5
water
feet.
line, the water line as well.
And is it that you need to excavate under these fields to put something in that's 5 feet down?
No, right now, if we were to move the whole lot over, say that 20 feet, it would require cutting into that hillside, or it would require a much larger wall on the southwest corner of the fields.
Well, you know, now that you brought that wall up, just to point out that everyone is aware that's listening, as far as I understand, tell me if I'm wrong, the southwest corner, you're going to have a 7.5 foot wall that's, I assume, going to have a 4.5 or 4 foot fence on top?
Yes.
So
Yep.
when I'm, not that it's going to keep me up at night, but if I'm driving north on Lowell Road, I'm going to see 11.5 feet of artificial situation in what you've characterized yourself as a pastoral setting. Is that true?
The wall is going to be faced with Concord native stone. So try to match as best as possible as an old farm field stone wall. And on top of that would be a fence system, typically colored black, so it disappears to the eye. If you make it a typical white picket fence or something obtrusive and to the eye, then it'll
Sure,
appear much more
sure.
intrusive.
Sure. No, I understand that. And we're playing sports with balls here. So is it not fair to say that not every shot goes in the net or is blocked? And the balls are going to fly into the wetlands. Yes.
Not at Middlesex.
No, but your opponents, they're the bad shots. I mean, that's how you win.
We had that discussion, and they got to go chase the ball.
Right. I mean, and you're right there. Can I ask? I mean, just to me, this seems sort of like a luxury solution to a problem. I mean, in your write-up, you talk about improvements to the field. You talk about it being a pastoral look. Turf fields are not a pastoral look. We can't go there. I don't think. I don't see how it's pastoral. So I'm wrestling with the aesthetics of it. And you're saying that you've got 335 feet of elevated wall at different heights and only 144 feet, which is what, 40% or better. So that's not an only, that's a significant amount of it will be in the 50-foot no build zone. We're usually pretty rigid about our no build zone, and that's why I think we're having problems with this. I mean, we've got to resolve it. We got to work it out amongst us, but just know where we're coming from, you know?
Sure.
And I think we can think about this, and you can think about a few things that you've heard tonight, and we're going to readdress. I assume we're going to continue this along, but you put some waivers in. Are these fields going to be allowed to be used by other sports programs in Concord, or from elsewhere other than Middlesex use?
Just like all of our fields, you know, we do open up to rentals from Concord programs. So it's not, we don't typically rent out outside of the community, but
Yeah, no, I was only from the standpoint, Stephen, of the waivers that you talk about, that not you personally, but that are mentioned here in the write-up. For the public benefit, and it's, I think you'd have to give a little evidence that there's a public benefit. You're using that as one of your criteria for permissibility, and I'm not really sure there's much public benefit for this. I do see the benefit to your programs and your school, and I think that's all fair. And if you didn't fight for that, you'd be foolish. So I get it. Does any other commissioner have any other thoughts or anything about this? I think there were some issues that Delia had raised. Did she get those to you before the meeting?
Yes.
And I do believe we've covered a lot of them.
Yeah. It just, I think, and I think we got to move this along unless you have a lot more to say. I think you see our hang up is our problem with the 50-foot buffer zone being used, and it's problematic for us, and we're wrestling with that. So I gotta urge you to do, to just tighten your thinking caps on that. But I think we need, there was maybe 7 here, and I think there were a few more. So if you could get those answers to Delia for next time, that would be good as well. Any thoughts from you guys again? I mean, I don't want to cut you off. If I'm cutting you off, please don't let me.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that strikes me, I definitely would like to see the alternative analysis to move out of the 50-foot no build zone. That's important. I recognize that you guys are limited by a lot of the wetland resources, et cetera, but it seems like you're starting to get to a point where you're trying to put 10 pounds into a 5-pound sack with everything you're doing. And I don't know how you think of, we'll end up resolving that, but it does strike me that you're trying to push the limits of the properties and protecting the wetland resources.
Nick, Ed, Sarah, you have anything to say before I open it to the public?
No, I think it's been covered.
Agree.
Opening it up to, unless you, Ryan and Stephen, I don't want to cut you off at all. If you have anything to add, and I'm not asking you to add anything at this point. I think.
I appreciate it. I just want, we did include an alternative site analysis as part of our filing.
Yeah.
Not to be said that this, location doesn't need tweaking, and I absolutely hear the commission on that, and something that we will consider. Just as far as footprint for 2 fields that are the minimum, this is a location that we do feel is best, and that's why we're presenting it to you tonight. So, and we do appreciate all the feedback, and like we will work with you. So.
Yeah, I know. We've always worked it out, and we'll work it out. But I think we got to listen to each other and do our best. That's all. Opening to the public. Is there anyone out there that has any thoughts, comments? Any one of the Karen are invited? I don't hear any. I think therefore we should continue this and readdress this in the, we thought we'd go out to the 4th. Delia asked it is to go out to the 4th because it's probably going to take you a little while to think it through, Stephen and Ryan, and, make it,
We also need, we haven't been able to verify the wetland boundaries. We need to see those and get those on a plan and take a look.
Thank you.
That's, yeah, so November 4th is the logical thing to come back to.
Ben, did you want to say something?
Oh, thank you. Hi, how are you?
Fine.
Good.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, everybody. Just tuning in and listening and trying to get an understanding of the project, and this whole type of thing is new to me, and so just trying to learn as I go here. But
need your address, Ben.
Sure, Ben Elliott, 54 Westford Road, Saltbox Farm, right across the street.
Thank you. Yep.
Yep. So I'm just curious, as this project evolves and grading is done and new surfaces are possibly installed, and whether they're artificial or not, where does the water go?
So one of the things that we have asked for in staff comments is that they provide a recharge plan so that engineering can look at it and review, and you're welcome to look at it as well. What all water is supposed to be retained on the property. That is a building code requirement. And we need to see that to just have our engineers confirm that's what's happening. But
Okay.
It's all supposed to be maintained on site.
Okay. And maintained on site, meaning it is, if we get a heavy rain, a wet spring, if the surface is artificial, obviously we're not going to be watering it, but if it remains natural, then we will be watering it. So whatever water hits the ground, it is retained on the property somehow?
Well, so I'll let, Ryan speak to what the recharge system looks like, because we have not yet been provided with that information, but
okay.
Turf fields are pervious, and they have a recharge system that is associated with that, with an overflow that is overflowed to wherever it is overflowed to, but it has to be retained on site.
Okay.
And we need to review that. We don't have that yet.
Okay.
Or is
Town
Jane-
staff, town planning, town
Engineering will look at that.
We'll take a look at that, and they have engineering standards, and Ryan will work with them, and they will have to sign off that that using standard engineering practices, the water will stay on site. Obviously, if you have a hurricane with 80 inches of rain, all bets are off. There's just standards that they all work by, and it's pretty standard practice. Pretty standard practice.
Okay.
I'm wondering if
You just need that evidence, Ben, to answer your question that our engineers say, yes, it will stay on board. It's not taken for granted.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
I'm wondering if James Pearson is on still. James, are you there?
We have a lot of Karens. Please, if you are a Karen on the screen, would you please name yourself to your actual name so we know who's here? That would be super helpful.
And just from the school side, this has been identified as an issue after we did a pretty expansive hydrology study of just of campus in general and where the water goes and how we manage it when it arrives on campus. So it's something that we're looking to share with the town, but also our neighbors. So I'm happy to send that along to you, Mr. Elliott, if you're interested in that.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sure. So just from a big picture standpoint, the synthetic turf field, underneath the synthetic turf is a stone layer to support the artificial turf, and you can adjust the depth of that stone layer to retain water and let it percolate into the ground just like it did in the natural grass environment without causing excess water runoff into the downstream condition. Like Delia said, it is a pervious surface, just like grass is a pervious surface. So big picture, we have no concerns that we have no concerns of not meeting the standards in town. James Pearson, our civil engineer, did put a stormwater report as part of the submission. And I would defer to him, as I'm a landscape architect, not a civil engineer.
Okay. Do you intend, by the way, Stephen, to put in monitoring wells on to monitor any I'll use the word chemical runoff from these fields? I know they're not the same as crumb rubber and that sort of jazz. They're an improvement on that, as I understand it, but
it's something we'd certainly be open to. The way we see the hydrology of campus is that just in general, this corner drains underneath Lowell Road to our natural watershed that goes into Spencer Brook. We currently do test the water in Spencer Brook for effluent from our wastewater treatment plant. We will continue to test that water in the Spencer Brook watershed. As far as specific wells, it's something we would be open to hearing from.
Well, no, I mean, it might be interesting to have that part of the record, that, you know, however you plan on monitoring, that you do have, you know, that you do that on a regular basis. It'd be nice to have that in the record on this, I think, just so people understand that we are monitoring and doing the best we can, you know. Good.
Yeah, our effluent is under an EPA permit, which
right.
we do submit. So just
in
general.
Right.
So we are testing the Spencer Brook watershed.
So just so I'm clear, are you, Greg, asking for whether the fields are going to be tested or something else?
I'm asking, are there going to be any monitoring? I was asking, had he planned any monitoring wells around the field to see if there was any migration of any chemicals
that's
from
what
the
I
field.
thought. So that's different from the
Wastewater.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was just saying to Stephen, however bring in how you're monitoring the runoff, and we'll see if it works past. If our town engineers believe it's a good way, then we're you know, and we, you know, I mean, just I'm not trying to make it onerous, Stephen. I
hear you. I do think the system that we are presenting
makes complete sense to me. If it's draining under the road and you know it's doing that, you know, you can grab a sample whenever you want, you know?
Yep, understood. The system, just for the public record, is a similar system that is used at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's right on the lake shore there. It's one that they believe is a minimal impact, and that's the only reason why we're looking at it as far as an artificial surface. So,
I have a screenshot of a PDF if people would like to see a visual of the system. And
Not
there's
tonight, I don't think.
Okay.
Maybe if you want to have it submitted, Deal, you can throw it up next time, Ryan. But I think at this point, we move on. I think we're in a good place to move on. And
Sure.
I mean, I think we're working down the road, and I think you have a few marching orders that, you know, you'll work on. And on November 4th, we will reassemble and see if we can make progress. You know, if we've made progress, we'll be in good shape, you know? I mean,
Great.
we really have a problem with it being in the 50. I don't think we want to underemphasize that, and I'm overemphasizing it as I sign off on this right this second. Is the 4th okay for you guys to come back, Stephen?
yes, that'll work for us.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we continue the hearing for DEP file. Oh, let me get the number here, excuse me. DEP file 1371545, continued to November 4th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. That was Ed seconding. All those in favor? Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thank you, guys. See you on the 4th.
All right, thank
Have a
you.
good
Thanks.
Columbus weekend, hopefully. All right, we're moving at breakneck speed. It's now 7:40. Lot 2A, Cayuca. DE
Greg, can I
file
just-
number 20
sorry.
dash what we're gonna.
Can I
We have
just ask, we still have 4 Karens. Can you Karens who are listed on the screen, please identify yourselves so that we know who's in the meeting? You need to just go up to your photo and right click on the caret, or just click on the caret. And just put in your name where it says
Yeah.
rename.
If you don't see your name, you are one of those Karens. And if you're one of those Karens and your name isn't Karen, put your real name there. We're going to give you your own little box. So please do that. We'd appreciate it. Moving along to Lot 2A, Cayuca. Goddard Consulting, I think, and Mark Arnold, are you here?
Actually, Dan Wells, I'm representing Goddard
Oh,
Consulting.
Dan, good, great. Thank you for your patience, by the way, and you too, Steve.
Thank you.
It's been, you guys were the first guys in, and hey, it's the way it is, huh? Okay, please, what are we doing here?
Okay, again, Dan Wells, Goddard Consulting, representing Steve Marsh of the Westchester Company. The project is located at Lot 2A, Cayuca Road, and the project is a single-family home. Delia, are you planning to put the plan up? Okay.
Sorry, I'm just putting the Karens into the waiting room until they can name themselves. 1 second.
Can they hear in the waiting room?
I see them when they're there.
Okay. Okay, please.
Okay.
Thanks,
So-
Dan.
Yep, so you can see this proposed dwelling is located to the north of Cayuca Road. There's, just for reference, there's a subdivision just to the east, which is called Hosmer Meadow, which was recently approved. So I
Yep.
believe the commission is familiar with that project. So this,
Yep.
the driveway to this new dwelling would come off just near the end, the western end of the roadway to Hosmer Meadow. And just for context, this project was also before the commission previously. DEP issued a superseding order of conditions approving this plan on August 6th of this year. And also, just for reference, the wetlands were confirmed under a final ORAD, and that's valid until May 29th of next year. So the house is located south of an intermittent stream and bordering vegetated wetland. The project is located completely outside the 25-foot buffer, and all of the structures are located outside of the 50-foot buffer. So that's right. Yeah. So there's a driveway coming in. There's also a garage and the dwelling, all within portions of the buffer zone. So one feature there was, because of there's a little bit of additional impervious right at the end of Hosmer Meadow, where the driveway comes into this project. There's a small amount of impervious surface, and per the request of DEP, there's a catch basin just to the right of where your hand is. Yeah, right below there. There's a catch basin which will catch that small amount of new impervious, and it's going to direct it to a Cultec system chamber, which is right under the new driveway. Yep, exactly. So as mitigation for the work within the buffer zone, this project proposes a significant invasive species management program, and it's going to take place within the 50-foot buffer zone. I'm sorry, within the 25-foot no disturb. So we're requesting that the commission approve that work because it's clearly going to benefit the resource area. So that's, the project itself would not be located in, but we would request permission to perform invasive species management activities and plantings within that 25-foot buffer zone. There's no, I guess that's pretty much the overview of the project. We did receive some comments from Delia this afternoon, so maybe if you want to get into that, Delia, we certainly would anticipate we'll respond to those at the next hearing as best we can, if yep. Not completely.
Yeah, no, I think she sent those. She and I reviewed it, and we had those, and we wanted to get those to you and just have you address those for the next meeting. We did not intend you to have to answer those things at this evening's thing. I just wanted to reiterate, Dan, all structures will be outside of the 50-foot no build zone. Very close. I hope you're good at it, Steve, because you're very close. One thing I thought of, because I don't want problems downstream, is no pun intended at all there, is the basement elevation vis-a-vis the water table, so that's on the plan, if you wouldn't mind, Dan, so that it's clear that the plan has taken that into account. And clearly the danger here, of course, is that a buyer a year from now and a heavy rainstorm comes and they say they got water in the basement, and we find out, oh my God, the table was, so it's just a matter of, I assume you have water table because you've designed a septic system. So it's just put it on the plan what the water table is vis-a-vis and what the
I believe
basement. I know it's a walkout, but what is the level of that floor? It's a simple exercise. I'm just asking you to do.
Certainly add that.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. And then Delia's comments. So if you can address those, you're outside the 50 and we approve these things, and there just are some of those questions that we'd appreciate if you take a look at. Any other commissioners have thoughts and questions?
Yes, this is Sarah.
Please.
So, it just occurred to me, so I don't see any plans for a deck on this house. I just want to avoid the problem of, in the future, a new homeowner wanting to put a deck into the 50-foot zone. Has that been considered?
They're building right to the 50, Sarah. So given our policy, yeah, it would be most difficult for that to get approved.
Right. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. I don't know if
no, it's a good point.
That needs to be stated anywhere.
We could put that in the deed upon sale that that we've agreed not to.
I think it actually would be best if you could just redesign this a little bit. You're pushing every single boundary on the 50-foot. think about what an actual homeowner might want. And they'll want a deck as well as something larger than a 150 square foot patio. So, you know, relax the tolerance on the pushing out against the 50, put a deck in and put a, you know, just make it a little bit more of a reasonable, you know, construction that
I think we did look at that.
what people might actually want to live in, because it makes it easier for the homeowner when they come back and they say to the commission, well, this is,
It happens, what I think what you need to know, and sitting here for multiple years and Delia even much longer, is that what happens is 2 or 3 years out, Susie and John come in and they want to put this deck on everything, and there's been no allowance for it. So if you could just give it some thought and make a situation that allows them to have some kind of thing, more power to you, and it's probably a better saleable product. But that's between you and your marketing people. But I think Delia's urging makes sense if you can just account for it, even if it's a very modest deck, and say, you know, future site of deck. At least we won't have that happen as often as we do. We're having it a lot, and so we're asking almost every builder that comes in front of us to consider that. That's all. It's not a mandatory thing. It's just, if you can make it better, make it better.
All right, well, we will certainly take a look at it. I don't want to make any promises. We
I
spent
get
a
it.
lot of time on it
I'm
to make
asking you.
sure, but we will definitely, I can promise you that we will discuss that
Yeah,
internally, and then at the next meeting, we'll see
yeah,
if we can come up with something.
yeah. You would have heard one, Steve, you would have heard one tonight. They decided not to present tonight, but you would have heard one tonight that's had to go back, cut a deck all the way down and do that. And it's sad to have to say that to people. If they knew going in, that's what they get, I think it would be a much better deal. Enough said. If you guys can do that, I think we should, any more questions from the commission? If not, I'd like to open it to any public comments if those unknown folks might have any issue, or anyone else. I'd love to hear it. Hearing none, I think we need to move on. Just want to give people a chance to a continuance. Everything would have to be in Friday. It seems we should probably plan to go out to the 4th.
Dan, do you think you can get it done before that?
It's more, you know, the civil engineer, Steve, you know, for a lot of these. So,
So we'll go to,
but it's also going to be that Public Works is going to have to review
True.
materials that come in. So, you know, if you get us something tomorrow, it's going to take 2 weeks for engineering to review the stormwater management. The water line is going to be a lot easier, but
you know, that's the other issue too, is, you know, the construction's already started on Cuca Road. So we were hoping to be able to take advantage of that while that was going on to get some of our work done in conjunction with that.
And that may still be possible, but it still is, you know, it has to go through the review process. So, you know, we just got your filing 2 weeks ago. So we haven't seen what stormwater management looks like, and that has to be confirmed before you can start construction on your.
I get it. I was just hoping that, you know, since we've been working on this for probably 10 years or close to it.
As I said, we just got your filing 2 weeks ago. So actually a little bit before, but you missed the last meeting's deadline. So, you know, it's just the process, Steve.
No, yep, I get it. So we'll take a look at that, then put us on for the 4th, and we'll go from there.
Great.
That would be, appreciate that, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right. Can I get a motion for the 4th, please, Ed?
Sure. I'll move to continue NOI file number 20-1, Lot 2A, Cuca Road, to the November 4th hearing.
Do I have a second? Nick?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. All those in favor, Sarah?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
And I'm I as well. It's unanimous. Okay, see you guys on the 4th. Thank you very much.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Moving right along to other business. Hutchins Farm, one of our neighbors up there, has a proposal in front of us. I hope most of you have reviewed it. And I saw Gordy here earlier. Did he leave?
He's here.
Is he one of the Mr. Unknowns?
No, he's
No,
here.
he's here.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Oh my goodness, you've been right in front of my face. Super. Just quickly, Gordy, just quickly tell us what you want to do.
Well, as you know, this is APR property. And the town and the state are co-holders. Under the APR agreement, we have applied for a certificate of approval to add some buildings. The town is charged under that with making sure what we're doing is in the right intent as described by the APR document. And so this is a 2-year project. We're adding a machinery shed and a greenhouse storage shed, plus another greenhouse, 2 areas of the farm. In order to accommodate the machinery shed, which is shown in that picture you just saw, we have to move a pile of loam that's accumulated in the upper left corner to accommodate, so we can move some employee parking over. And that loam will be spread on some fields and dry spots where the topsoil is thin.
Yeah.
And that's basically the project. There's the other side of the property. We haven't added any buildings. Currently, most of our machinery is stored outside during most of the year, and we try to cram it into the farm stand building in the winter. The new food safety stuff coming down the pipe makes that increasingly difficult. We also need to expand the greenhouse space. We haven't added a greenhouse in over 30 years. This will double our space. Part of the funding for this is coming through a program called the Agricultural Improvement Program, which is for APR property. For the state, the state wants to invest in the long-term viability of APR property with improvements, and that's what we're looking for here. Another part of that is to help us, which isn't part of this request. We're looking to put in an irrigation well. You would think I would have put it in all one certificate of approval, but we didn't have the location yet. We've just finished the testing for that, and we have located that well. So you're going to see another certificate of approval application coming hopefully in the next month, as soon as I get Jeff Purley in there to locate it.
Okay.
And the reason for the well is we've been pumping out of the river since the 70s. And we're starting to have, we have water quality issues with food safety. And so it seems like a good idea to move to a well. We also need to supply water to our greenhouses, which currently we take off another family property, which we will no longer have access to shortly. And also with the next certificate of approval for the well, we'll be bringing in new utilities over an existing easement to the greenhouse area to then provide the power to the well in the lower field. I guess that's it.
I think that's enough. It seems like a well-run farm. It seems like it's going to be continue to be a well-run farm. I don't really have any issues with it whatsoever. Does anyone else have any thoughts or issues?
Nope.
No.
Not hearing any from anyone. Sarah, did you have something to say? No.
I was just saying no concerns.
Oh, okay. I open to the public. Is anyone out there in the public? Just give it a second. Hearing nothing. What do we, is this requires a motion?
Yes.
So somebody needs to make a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the request by Hutchins Land Company LLC for a certificate of approval on APR land, which is at 754 Monument Street, as shown in the drawings, to add greenhouses, storage barn for machinery, and employee parking.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. All those in favor, Sarah?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thank you, Gordy.
So I'm sorry, but you do need to make the findings that are in the thumbnail.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have that in front of me. Okay. I make a motion to grant the certificate of approval for Hutchins Land Company LLC at 754 Monument Street. Certificate of approval with the following findings and conditions. Find that the proposed machinery storage shed, greenhouse supply shed, and greenhouse and removal of approximately 500 yards of fill to accommodate employee parking is authorized under the APR granted to the state of Massachusetts and the town of Concord, and through the Natural Resources Commission in accordance with MGL Chapter 184 and 132A. Second finding is that find the construction of these structures not defeat or subrogate from the intent of the APR to provide for the perpetual protection and preservation of agricultural lands with the following conditions. Hutchins Farm LLC shall obtain all permits prior to construction. B, engineered survey plans of proposed improvements shall be provided to the Natural Resources Commission prior to requesting a building permit. And C, following construction, Hutchins Farm LLC shall provide an as-built plan confirming all improvements that have been constructed in accordance with the plans.
Do I hear a second to that? Nick?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, Sarah?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. It is unanimous. Now, thank you, Gordy. Good night.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Peace.
We are here to discuss 177 Barnes Hill Road, which is Brant Johnson on by any chance? Brant, are you on?
He might be two of the unknowns, but I don't know who those
No, I just want to give him a chance to. Brant? I don't. Well, let me start if I might. There was activity out on the property at 177 Barnes Hill Road, which certainly appears to be either in the buffer zone or potentially in the wetlands. We're unsure. It happened last spring. Delia went out at the time of the action because there was nothing in her record showing that anything was permitted there. Tried to get on site and was unable to do that, but has had communications back and forth with the landowner, who claims that I shouldn't say it that way. He says that what happened was he started to do some work because he was having flooding in that part, which was unique to recent years, and he believes is caused by offsite cutting down trees across the way. Whether that's true or not is modestly irrelevant, but apparently he feels that there was more water there than had been the case, and he was trying to rectify that issue. And he's been told that he had have to come in front of us to do that. And this is a large piece of land of which this area is used for horse farms. I guess riding and exercising and enjoying horse
pasturing.
Pardon?
Boarding.
It's for boarding horses.
Boarding horses, yeah. I'm trying to point out that issue that is not considered farming in our eyes. So he doesn't have some of it. But regardless, this work was probably done and should have had, and there's your pile of material. Delia and I went out Wednesday or Monday, Tuesday, whenever, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And went there and observed the situation, and it is all backfilled and fairly level with what was there probably. I mean, could be off a little bit, but I couldn't tell. But what we did notice was that Delia had brought an auger out there and an auger. I was the auger, she brought the auger, and she augered next to where this work was done in what you can see there might be grassland. And the auger went right down and pulled out very dark, rich, well, I assume rich, loam soil. I'm not a soils guy, so I don't want to grade
Can you
it.
see that?
Pardon?
Do you see this picture
Yes.
The picture.
of the area that, there's the auger? Do you see that?
No, we don't.
No,
We
you
see,
got
Okay.
it. The font is
Okay.
still up.
All right.
So continuing the story, so then she tried to auger the ground that had been disturbed, clearly disturbed, and we were unable to get the auger down. I mean, I didn't try, she did. And we did observe some what looked like trap rock, or, inch and a half type trap rock or rock. But there's there's a picture of what she tried to get through. So we went and talked to the owner. The owner did not accompany us down the hill, although we did ring the doorbell and we didn't get any response. Not sure anything to say about that, but he did come out at one point. We had a brief discussion with him and told him about our findings. And we were hoping he was going to come on tonight because what we want to request of him as a minimal aspect is to bring in a wetland scientist, a certified wetland scientist, to make a determination with some borings or shovel dig to report what the soil profile is within the disturbed area and what the soil profile in his or her expertise would be on the undisturbed part, and also flag the wetlands so we know, are we in the wetlands, how close to the wetlands are we, et cetera. We are unaware because we have no way of formally knowing that. And the intent, I was going to suggest, just to keep my thoughts, and then I really want to hear from the rest of you. I wanted to give the gentleman until next Wednesday, which is the 14th, to get back to Delia to say whether he was agreeing to that as our first step to identify where we are and what we have out there. And I wasn't going to be threatening, but I was just going to say our alternative, if he doesn't do that by the 14th, would be to issue an enforcement order, which would go to the state and basically say that he's done work improperly within the wetlands or the buffer zone without jurisdiction approval. So have I done a pretty good job, Delia, of describing where we're at? So I don't know what to say at this point other than I want to hear you folks. I was trying to do everything that we could, and Delia and I were trying to be as cooperative as possible with a citizen to say, hey, if you've made a mistake, if you can get somebody out there. And his claim is that his statement is that he raked off what was there, had the intentions of putting in rock and then putting it back over so that it would drain, but that he didn't do that, that all he did was respread what was there. And we just want that to be attested by a soil scientist. That's all. That's all we're asking. And to let us know where we are vis-a-vis the wetlands. And I think we need to know that because there's like a thumb, sort of a low area that kind of like a thumb comes up close here. It could be wetlands or not. I'm just not a wetlands person. I wouldn't know it if I fell over it, kind of, in terms of being this kind of, needing this kind of specificity. So does anybody have any thoughts, especially, Delia, do you have anything to add? But go ahead, Judy. It looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, I guess the only question I have is, do we know, or obviously we don't, was that gravel put in like a long time ago? If they have horses there now, had somebody built like a something that would have had gravel in it.
Well, I think that's an excellent question, Judy, and I don't know the answer to it, but I think that was Delia and I's proposal to him is if you had a scientist dig around and he found something on some sides of that simulated what's there, then I think, he's repaired it. Don't get me wrong, it's all leveled out. We were hoping to find homogeneous material, and we say, hey, please come in front of us if you want to do anything next spring. That's what we were hoping to find, and we didn't exactly come up with that. So we tried to say to him, hey, we think we need an intervening step here to find out why we didn't come up with what we had anticipated we would find.
Okay, great. So that could provide information around.
Yes, it could.
Well,
Okay, great.
and also just recall that this whole issue began because I got a call in April that there was a bobcat in the wetlands out there, and so I went in the area in question. There was a small bobcat that was excavating soil, and now that soil is different from what the adjacent fields looks like. So it doesn't seem like it happened 30 years ago. It's
okay. Yeah, I was just curious, thinking.
Well, I think that's the whole idea of having it analyzed by a wetlands person. To put some flags out there so we know where we are vis-a-vis the wetlands, which if he wants to do any more work out there, anything's going to have to be done anyway. And that's not an extraordinarily expensive issue to ask somebody to do it, having it, done, sort of not played within what we would consider normal practice to begin with. And if it comes up, Judy, that it, there are multiple places that show this way, that will be very interesting. I don't want to prejudge it, but I think Delia, in my observation, it was clearly different looking material, but it doesn't have sod over it and the other thing. So,
can you see this graphic?
Yeah.
So do you see the bobcat?
No.
No, we don't see the bobcat.
Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to show you a different one. Okay, sorry.
And Delia, when you guys did the auger, was it fairly clear that this material was just in the disturbed area, more or less?
Yeah.
Well, so we didn't really look at the entire disturbed area. What we did was we went into, let me just see if I can get the right graphic up here. Okay, so this is April.
Okay.
And so this is what was disturbed in April. Then this is what we saw. So this is standing, the Barnes Hill Road is here. The house is here. But if you look at this material, you can see that there's
pretty bony.
And I tried to put in a few holes. So here's the edge of the fields that appears not to have been disturbed. Here it's very easy to get an auger in.
So yeah, I was going to ask where you put the other auger in.
Yeah, and this was impossible.
That's a visible sight line of disturbance.
Yeah.
It certainly seems like it.
Yeah.
So I think Greg's right. I mean, I think it makes sense to just have the homeowner, ask them to, submit something from a wetland scientist and give him, Greg, I think, is suggesting a week to say, are you willing to comply, and then give him 2 weeks to, then comply.
Yeah.
Which I think is exceedingly reasonable. I think that's
and thanks for sending the record too, because having read it, I think it goes back to April.
Right.
The time of the disturbance. Right. I think staff and commissions have extended a fair amount of leeway here, so it seems like it may be appropriate to take the next step if there's no further compliance.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're being, I think the burden is on us to do our jobs, which when we see something like this, I don't think there's an alternative but to ask that we see evidence that in effect we can sign off and say, okay, he's made it, his claim his statement is basically that he's done the best he can to put it back, that he was misinterpreted what he could do there. And okay, great. No harm, no foul, no big deal. But would you please just show us that it's that it's homogeneous and that's the way it was, and also to make sure you weren't working in the wetlands, because that would be important to know where that is. So flags and some shovel reports from what the profile of the soils are seem like minimum request to allow him to get himself off the hook. We're not trying to. If you dig down, we didn't auger too far. Let's be honest, we augered maybe a foot or so. But if you dug down next to it and 18 inches, you run into a whole bunch of stone that if you turn it up would have created the same thing. Well, then I think we have what happened. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's find out. And I want to be reasonable with a fellow citizen, but I can't close my eyes to what that it wasn't supposed to be touched. It's been it's been affected.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So any other things? Because I think what we need to do is Delia needs to send him a missile tomorrow morning saying that we've discussed this and that we're asking that he do these functions and let us know by the 14th that he's willing to do that, and give us a date by which he will have it done and report back, have the person that does the work report back to us. Otherwise, I think our hands are tied. We've got to send an enforcement order out. I don't see a choice.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We don't need a vote on that. I think that's just bringing you up to speed on our site visit. And if anybody wants to take a visit out there, I would let Delia know immediately. And, we'd let him know. He seems to be willing to let people come out there. And I might say that if we want to make it a commission meeting, that has to be a public meeting, scheduled with proper notice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if anyone thinks that should happen, so say so. Other than that, that's what I think we're going to do. Everybody on board?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
73 Monument Street, DEP file number 1371542. We need a COC. Close an issue.
Okay, make a motion to close an issue for DEP file 1371542, which is 73 Monument Street, with findings A, normal conditions, standard conditions 1 through 19, and special conditions 20 through 52.
Second.
All those in favor, Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. We have some COCs. Need motions.
Sure.
Ah.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliances for the following 3 properties. 207 Prairie Street, DEP file number 137-1378. 215 The Valley Road, DEP file 137-1409. And 105 Comerford Road, DEP file number 137-1441.
And one more for Damon Mill, which is on the agenda, but sorry, not on the thumbnail.
Okay. And you got the file number on that, Celia?
It's 1307, 137-1307.
Damon Mill. I don't have the
9 Pond Lane. 1371307.
07. And for 9 Pond Lane, DEP file number 137-1307. 2022-1307.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Nick, for the second. Sarah, how say you?
Oh, wait, I have a
Aye.
question. I have a
Oh,
question.
please.
I have a question on the Damon Mill project. Delia, which project is that?
That was the dam removal project.
So they completed that?
They did complete that. So they had never intended to do a full dam removal. They just were taking out, it was a partial dam removal. We
Yeah,
get them to take out the whole thing if they're
right.
be in there, but no, it's just what's there is done.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
That damn project is over.
Finally, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Sarah, how say you?
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I'm aye as well. We have an administrative approval keen on 397 Monument Street, a wall repair. What's that all about?
So the the abutter has actually requested that not move ahead because it's actually on the adjacent property. It's not on 397 Monument. And they're in discussions about what that looks like. So there's no action on that item
All
tonight.
right. Well, it seems like we're at the end of the rope, guys. I know it'd be great to just hang around and chit chat, but
Two more.
Wait, two more, yeah.
I'm
Sorry,
following.
we're not done yet.
Sorry.
Barnes
Hey.
Hill Road, 136 Barnes Hill Road. A few years ago, the Sears had received approval for removal of 3 trees. They never completed that, but they have that approval. The new homeowner wants to also remove 2 additional trees. So this request is just for 2 trees, the outer buffer zone for safety reasons.
No big deal, right?
No.
Anybody have any issues with
No.
that? Do we need a motion on this? Yes?
You don't.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Let's cover 315 Elm Street.
Okay, so this is the property that had the fence at the 50-foot that I saw as an amendment recently. This is where my cursor is. This way is where the fence is proposed. And to the left is the 50-foot no build zone. So the commission had determined that mulch was not appropriate in this area and it was going to be replanted. I went out to look at the reestablished erosion controls with the applicant, and you see this is also sort of in the same line of what he was looking to do. So it actually, when you go out and look at it in the field, it makes sense that this area would be mulched. He's going to have a fence here. It's going to be difficult to maintain behind that fence. He's willing to plant it, similar to what he's done here. So I would recommend that you allow him to just mulch this area within the 50 and replant. And that I think that's an acceptable resolution to that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Does anybody have any issues with that? It's a very minor. I mean, I think that the woods will take that back. It'll be on the other side of the fence and it'll hold everything in place until that happens.
Yeah.
This fellow was very reasonable, if you remember.
Yes, he
so
was.
It seems we should be reasonable back and not be idiots. Any more idiots than we already are, right, Ed? Okay, well, I think we need to welcome Sarah, and Sarah, you did keep quite quiet as the rookie on, but don't hesitate in the future. I mean, if you have things to say, we really need everybody pitching in. So welcome aboard and roll up your sleeves. Because, by the way, I did a terrible job because we haven't been till 10 o'clock in a very long time. Usually just because we lied to you, Sarah. By the way, we met with her and we told her you get out of 9 o'clock. I mean, so your first day in the trenches, we lied to you, and we'll continue to do that. But we do our best. All right, good
And I'm
evening,
sorry
guys.
you can't.
We don't need a motion. Ed's motion to adjourn
Yes,
is
you do.
accepted by
You
the
need a
chair.
motion and
Make
you
it-
need,
Oh,
Make a
we
motion
saw
to
it.
adjourn.
Judy seconded it, and Nick
Yes.
thirded it. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Good
Aye.
evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.